something you've been putting off. Maybe you say, someday I'll do that, or when I have more time. Whether the item is a big bucket list item or something smaller like going on a hike, now is the time to start your Say Yes list. And we have the perfect process to help you turn these items into reality. Join thousands of others with our free Say Yes list template at thesayyesexperience.com/list. It'll help you stop living in that someday and start making those list items come true today. So download it now at thesayyesexperience.com/list. Welcome to the Say Yes Experience podcast, where we inspire you to get out of your comfort zone and into possibility. Our mission at the Say Yes Experience is to empower 10 million people to say yes. If you're new here, welcome. We're thrilled you're here. I'm Jessica Rector. I co-founded the Say Yes Experience with my then 9-year-old son Blaze, based off his idea to let's just say yes to things. I'm one of the top experts on burnout, and companies and conferences hire me to present on mental health, wellness, and burnout prevention. As a #1 best-selling author of 11 books, keynote speaker, and a burnout specialist, I've seen so much with our clients. The Say Yes Experience was started to help you really start living, to do the things that light you up, have more fun, and turn your dreams, or what we call Say Yes list items, into reality. So thank you for investing in yourself and being here. Now let's make it happen. Have you ever wanted to travel somewhere, anywhere, and thought you couldn't afford it? Maybe you see others living the nomad life or traveling around the world and think that would be nice, but no way could I do that. Where would I ever get the money? Brianna and Aaron Shade are here to help. They're experts in helping others just like you find the money they need to travel. The best part? You don't have to sacrifice or live out of your car to do it. That is, unless you want to. If you know me, you know I love to travel, so I'm super excited to learn their tips, tricks, and trades for traveling anywhere you want to go. Please help me welcome my guests today, Brianna and Aaron Shade. Welcome to the show, Brianna and Aaron. We are excited you are here, especially because we are going to be talking about one of the things I love, travel. You help people afford more travel, which I'm loving it. So tell us how you do that.
Well, really, it comes down to a lot of little things. So a lot of folks think that there's like one silver bullet to affording less travel, to being able to do more travel. But really, it's a whole conglomeration of a lot of little things that when you are in the know and when you understand all of these different little tricks that you can do while you're traveling, then you can pick and choose each one of those things whenever the situation presents itself. So, for example, before you even take your trip, you're looking at flights and how you can reduce the expenses on your flights. And maybe that's in setting price alerts so that you can get alerted when a particular flight that you're looking at goes down in price, and like, okay, that's a much better deal. I'm going to secure that flight. And then you're automatically saving money long before you've even taken the trip. But then there are other things like different types of lodging that you can have while you're traveling, whether or not you eat out every meal or if you're cooking back in your lodging. You can look online for deals for different activities that you're doing while you're traveling. Just all of these different things so that depending on what is most important to you, you can say, you know what? I don't really care about the flight. I just want to get there. So if I'm taking a red eye overnight, kind of throw me in the baggage area kind of thing, just get me there. And then I can splurge a bit more on maybe the food or the activities that once we get there. And so it's that freedom of being able to choose with that.
Deciding what's more important to you, right? I mean, is the trip over there most important to you, or activities, or do you value the experience that restaurants give you? You know, one of the things I say all the time, because my son and I travel a lot, is that we don't value eating out as much. We would way rather spend money on fun activities, or like what people may consider once in a lifetime experience, like those cool experience and activities to create memories. Whereas I have a friend who absolutely loves going out to nice dinners because that's what she values as really great experiences. But when you have a 10-year-old that, you know, can eat a cheeseburger burger and he doesn't eat a fast food burger and he doesn't really care. We want to go really live it up through those experiences and activities. But one of the things I hear most often from people is, there's no way I can afford that. How do you start to afford, traveling and going on, even if you travel, go on just one excursion? Because I think it's just kind of this challenge that looms over people. The cost has got to be so big. So when you hear that, how do you respond, and what goes through your mind whenever people say, oh, I'd love to travel, I want to travel, I just can't afford it?
Well, I think it's really just about the mindset around travel to begin with and what areas you can cut costs on. And I think just about whether it's an activity or your lodging, there are different ways that you can go about getting those quite cheap. And it depends where you're going too. So if you're going international and you're going to a country that things don't cost very much, then that could be a way to save if you want to go explore places like that. Another thing is, like for activities, one thing I say is, don't just look at the price that the activity is, whatever they're charging you. See if you can find something like a deal online, or even Groupon works around the world. You'd be surprised.
Does it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We used Groupon in Amsterdam to do a tour there. So that was like, we saw the ice bar. We went to the ice bar, and we got a good discount on it just by
30% off.
30% off. Wow. So why just pay the price at the door? Just look to see if there's something better, and then you get a Groupon in a few minutes and just go join it.
I didn't even know Groupon worked around the world. So that's a great tip, just right there. Groupon works around the world. That's super crazy. But then also, one of the things, I don't know if y'all have found this true, but one of the things when people look at tours, you get this one price for all the tour. And what I've found, we tend to not do tours, because one of the things that I find is you got to go to 5 places on the tour, and really I only want to go to one, right? I only want to go to that one. And so instead of doing a tour, is it just something that you can do by yourself and save yourself money, so you're also not spending the time going to places that you really don't want to go to, but you're also not spending the money on these package deals when you really only want to go to 1 or 2 of those things? Have you found that to be the case as well?
We definitely will do a self-guided tours. We can look and see what's around in a new, like say we were just hopping around to different cities in Europe, and I'll go there and I'll just get on Google Maps and just see what's around. And then I'll just kind of create my own walking through the city, maybe stopping and doing this thing and that thing, and definitely saves me a lot. However, there's another thing we do in countries around the world, and that's free walking tours. And what's great about that is if you're just getting to a new city and you just want to get kind of the lay of the land and have someone take you around, they usually have I don't know, it could be even college students or locals that will do this. They do expect maybe a tip, but you don't have to necessarily tip them, but I usually do. But considering the value that you get from that versus spending $50, $100, and you're spending maybe $20, $30 max, I think it's totally worth it, because then you're getting that firsthand experience. And a lot of times they'll tell you about a lot of local things that they're not just about, the tourism aspect of a place. They'll show you different parts of town that you wouldn't expect to even go necessarily always. And it's just a
restaurant recommendation.
And restaurant recommendations.
Get our best food from the free walking tour guides.
And for me, you were talking about restaurants, maybe not be our primary focus, because we do a lot of cooking in our lodging, but at the same time, we do want to experience the culture of a place and have some experiences with restaurants. So getting that insider tip of, hey, I know this place that, it's off the tourist path and really local, and go check this out. And we've had some pretty cool experiences through that.
Whenever you go to a place, how challenging or easy is it to find a place that you stay, your lodging, where you can actually cook inside? Because I've never actually intentionally found or looked for places where you can cook yourself, because I tend to think, oh, well, I'm there, I want to experience their food and their dining and that kind of stuff. But I never actually even thought, well, is it easy to find Airbnbs or some kind of place where you can actually cook inside where you're staying?
Oh, absolutely. We never had a problem with that. And honestly, we like having that flexibility, because when you have your own kitchen, you can choose to cook at home whenever you want, and you can still go out and explore all of the food there, but you're not forced to do so. So we can do like breakfast and lunch in the place and dinners out, or another cost savings tip, do lunch only out and eat in for the other meals, because especially dinners tend to be much more expensive than lunches. And so while you're out and about during the day, you can hit up a nice cafe or anything like that and do your lunch, and then you can have dinner back at your place. But it's never been difficult for us to find places like that. In fact, we almost never stay in hotels, period, just because it's not our jam in general. It feels too sterile. It's not really connected with the locals or the kinds of places that the locals would actually stay in. So if we're going to pay for lodging, then we're much more inclined to go for like an Airbnb type situation. But even more than that, we tend to prefer house sitting as much as possible, because then we get a place all to ourselves. We get a kitchen all to ourselves, and we're basically watching over people's houses and their pets and their plants and whatever else while they are away. And we're able to get lodging in exchange for that. So it's a really great way to not only save money while you're traveling, but also to have your own private domicile that you can return back to at the end of each day. And it's a place that it's not like a communal hostel kind of situation. TEL, not TILE, where you're sharing that space with a lot of different people. You're able to have this own space of yours. And especially for us as a couple, it's nice to be able to wind down, have ourselves dinner, binge some Netflix, whatever else, and plan our next day whenever we're traveling. So that's definitely...
Okay, so I like how you spelled that out, because I was like, what? We admitted to
hostel, not hostile.
I was like, what? So that made me laugh. So tell me a little bit, I have two questions. So tell me a little bit more about the house sitting situation, because I recently read, and maybe it depends on what country, but I was reading how you have to have a work permit if you do that. Now, does that depend on which country, or how does that work?
I have not heard anything like that. I would assume that would be true if it were paid house sitting.
Okay.
But in this case, it is not paid house sitting, and the program that we use is all around the world. And
it's just an exchange program. All it does is it matches up travelers with homeowners. So the homeowners are off traveling, and you have people visiting your native city. So they say, hey, I've got a house that I'm vacating for the next 2 weeks. Who wants to come in and watch my pets while I'm away? You get free lodging. I get a free pet sitter. So everybody wins.
Win-win. I love that. So you'll have to, what's the name of that resource? And then we can also put it in the show notes. But I love that idea.
Absolutely. There are a number of them all around the world. The one that we use is Trusted House Sitters. But there are a whole bunch of them, and many countries will even have their own local programs. So definitely look into that as well. And we've been house sitting with them for a few years now, and we wish we knew about that long before we started traveling, because we were always begging our friends, hey, can you come watch our cats? And it would have been great, because we were living in Portland, which is a popular tourist destination already, and that we wouldn't have had any problems getting cat sitters, I'm sure, living there. We love this program so much where we actually became affiliates for them. So if you want that link, I'm happy to share it. But
we'll definitely put that in the show notes, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that.
It is our favorite way to travel. And we're cat people. So the best of cats is they are very independent, and we can leave them alone for the entire day, go out and do all of our traveling kinds of things, come back in the evening, give them pets and loves and food, and they're snuggling with us overnight and whatever else. And we love hanging out with the cats whenever we're not out traveling. So it's kind of the best of both worlds for us.
That is a great way to save, because when you think of how much lodging costs when you're traveling for 1 to 2 weeks, I would say, that's probably, depending upon how long, there's going to be a break even, but how long you're traveling, that's probably your biggest expense right there is lodging. So where have you found are some countries that people can visit that actually it's quite cheap to visit?
Off the top of my head, Eastern Europe is much cheaper than Western Europe. You can find lodging. So say that Airbnb, if you're going to pay for an Airbnb, it might be like 40 euros a night or something really cheap. And you still have your own place, your own kitchen, your own bed in a decent location. I mean, heck, we were just within minutes of walking to the coastline of Croatia with one of those Airbnbs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a place, South America. I'm sure we could find some really cheap lodging down there, Central and South America. And I've always heard Southeast Asia is another area.
Yeah, I wish I was having this conversation with y'all last year because we went to Croatia and we didn't find lodging like that.
Oh, it also depends on when you went, because we visited in November and there was nobody there. The weather was spectacular, still warm enough to swim in the ocean. It was absolutely wonderful. And we had the city walls of Dubrovnik almost entirely to ourselves. It was fantastic.
No, we didn't. We went prime time in July. So no.
Off-season.
So off-season travel is the best for saving money. Don't go in the middle of July to Croatia because it's going to be a zoo anyway.
It was crazy. So when you were sitting there saying that, I was like, I didn't know what else. Like when we went, we found Southeast Asia very, like, really, really reasonable. And I love how, when we went, we were staying at this Airbnb and we got what was one of the crazy things that we'd never heard of. We'd never even really thought about is, you have to be careful because sometimes Uber or transportation isn't what we think it is. So, because it's so abundant over here in the States, we don't think that, maybe they don't even have Uber over there. And so we got a private driver, which ended up being quite reasonable over there. And then at the end of the night, we went back to our place and there was this little tiny family-owned restaurant next door. And we loved it so much. And it was literally like less than $5 for the two of us to eat. And we ended up eating every meal there. So, you can find that in those type of places too, where it's really, really cheap compared to, what we would pay over here in the States. So I think it's also about doing a little research and finding not just where you want to go, but what countries are reasonably priced. Like we went to Vietnam, Thailand, we went to Bali. All those cities and countries, all those were really cheap compared to what we think. But oftentimes I think we have this image in our head of what travel automatically is. And so we say, no, we can't do that. Which you mentioned, we have to change our mindsets around travel. So tell me a little bit more about that. Do you want to start saying yes, but you just don't know where to start? And oftentimes when we don't know where to start, we just don't start. So we created an ebook just for you. We put together 101 ways to say yes in this ebook. Ideas, big and small, things that only take a small amount of time, like 1 to 2 minutes. Whether you're saying yes to yourself, in your family, relationships, or pushing yourself lovingly outside of your comfort zone with adventures, it's all made to really help you become more of your rock star self. So you can get this ebook at thesayyesexperience.com/book, BOOK. So if you want to start saying yes, or maybe you need some ideas on how to say yes because you get so caught up in being busy and doing tasks and projects or doing laundry and cooking that the time flies by and you want to spend time with your family, but you just don't know how to say yes. Those ideas just don't come to you. We put it together to make it super, super easy for you. So go to thesayyesexperience.com/book to get your copy today and start saying yes now. Are you feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or burned out? We get it. You're not alone. In fact, according to our research, 79% of the workforce is in burnout and almost half are in extreme burnout. In fact, it's the number one reason why people are leaving organizations. They're burned out. They're looking for something more. They're looking for something better. But it doesn't have to be that way. We have your solution. It's called Blaze Your Brain to Extinguish burnout. 52 keys to prevent, breakthrough, and eliminate burnout. You can find your copy at justcorrector.com/store. Now, this is a great tool that you can use with yourself, with your colleagues, within your organization. Everyone can get one, and you can go through one a week with them. And at the end, you can say, what was something that worked this week? What was the success you had? So you can champion and encourage each other. You can also ask what were the challenges and issues that came up, so you can mastermind and brainstorm around those to keep those from coming up in the future. So make sure you get your copy at justcorrector.com/store. All books are autographed with a personal message just for you.
I would say that the two mindsets are, one, you have like a vacation mindset where you have only 2 weeks to go out and do as much as you possibly can in this little bit of time. And so, of course, you're going to try and live it up. You're going to spend a lot of money. You're going to go eat out at restaurants. You're going to stay in a hotel. And if you're doing anything more long-term travel, then you're thinking more like, okay, well, how can I sustain that? And that's through things like having free lodging, staying in local homes, staying even with locals. We did some of that as well. And just maybe cooking for yourself and finding deals on activities. And you have more time to do those things. Whereas the other mindset is like, okay, I'm going to Japan. I got 2 weeks. I got to do everything I possibly can. I'm going to wear myself out to pieces. And then when I get back, I'll still need another vacation because I did too much. And that's just shift of mindset. Because if you're traveling slowly and staying for a month in Croatia, then you have all the time you need to have relaxing days, and then also days you're out doing things, and then just not spending anywhere near as much.
Mm-hmm. Plus, then you can pick and choose the good weather days.
Yes.
That's true. So how do you suggest that people go about shifting that mindset? Because, 2 weeks cramming everything in, I think, is the pattern that we've had for so long. How do you begin to shift that?
That's kind of difficult with the lessons that society has taught us thus far is you get a job and you only have 2 weeks of vacation for a lot of us here in the States. And so you don't really have a lot of choice around the matter. It's like, I only have 2 weeks. So how on earth am I supposed to do this slow travel? How am I supposed to break free of this cage that my job kind of puts around my ability to travel? And the solution that obviously we have found that we try to help other people achieve is to break out of that cage. So it's a matter of redefining what your work situation looks like and navigating that, inserting it with your travels and making the two coexist. So it doesn't have to be this situation where, well, I have to work in order to afford my travels and I can't do both at the same time. Well, yeah, actually you can. And so I would say the first step with that is to discuss with your boss, with your job, and see, are there any ways that you can expand the time that you're away from the office and maybe do some remote work, especially in the wake of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of companies have become a lot more receptive to this idea of remote work. And now is a perfect time to actually say, hey, for my well-being and for my happiness, I want to stay with this company, but I really want to travel more. Would you be open to this idea of my working remote 1 week a month kind of thing? Or can I extend my PTO an extra week and work remotely for that?
Yeah.
So you can stay in a destination for a longer period of time. And so that is... Of course, that completely depends on what your job is, what you're working on, and that sort of thing. And I get there are many jobs that you have to be there in person. If you're in manufacturing, for example, you can't do that remotely. And so at that point, it might be looking at more of, well, is there something else you could do, perhaps? Is there a shift in what you're actually doing? And those are options as well. So the nice thing with this day and age is the internet is very prevalent, especially all around the world. It's really easy to get a lot of resources that you need to work remotely. The equipment is phenomenal as far as portable computers and webcams and microphones and all sorts of stuff that you can practically be in the room with somebody without physically being in the room. And so there are so many options for that and so many different jobs that you can do remotely that the opportunities are endless there. And it's just a matter of taking yourself out of, well, I'm doing this current thing. Well, maybe you can apply some of those skill sets elsewhere and be able to do some of that more remotely so that you can do traveling while you're working income.
Absolutely. And one thing that's really becoming a lot more prevalent in the workforce these days is taking sabbaticals. And I was just talking with someone and they're like, when you go into a new job, make sure that you negotiate that I need 5 weeks for a sabbatical. I need 2 months of a sabbatical. So that's a great way to, or even if you're in a job right now, it's a great way that you can go to your boss and say, hey, I need a sabbatical. And then make sure that you have that and then use that time to recharge and to re-energize yourself by going and traveling. When you travel, what are some of the ways that you feel like it fills you up? I assume that's one of the reasons why you travel. You like it because it brings something to you, get some kind of joy, some kind of happiness, some kind of good energy, just juicy things out of traveling. What are some of those things and the reasons why you like traveling so much?
I think for me, it's just getting out there and exploring. I'm an explorer type. I just like going into a new place and just seeing what's around every corner and trying new foods, meeting new kinds of people. That's what really just gets to me, especially when we make personal connections with locals and just get that inside experience on what a place really is and the history and why they are the way they are there. And that stuff is just fascinating for me.
Yeah, I love that. What
Maybe
about
I'm mostly driven by the beautiful scenery because I'm a photographer as well. And so I love going to beautiful places like Patagonia and Croatia and national parks and Norway and Costa Rica and all these other things. Namibia, goodness, the wildlife there. All of these different places that have so many amazing things to photograph. I get such a thrill out of photographing all of those things. So that's the joy that I get from travel, as well as kind of those new experiences and that just challenge your mind.
Yes.
Wow, I had no idea that bicycles aren't the same all around the world. What do you mean they don't operate the same around the world? How do we have a guest from Japan who doesn't know how to ride our bicycles? That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like, when we go to Japan, the shifter is up here and their bikes do this. And it's like, wow, you never even think that until you go someplace.
Exactly.
And like, wow, you know what? Actually, that's clever. Maybe that's a better way of doing things.
And I think it just expands our mind for what's possible. And our way of doing things is not the only way of doing things. That, again, you could meet someone or see something and you're like, didn't even realize that. I think it just allows it. And when I expand my mind, it helps me become a better person, right? More well-rounded, open to other people's ideas and opportunities and what's possible in life, as opposed to just living in, it's easy to just live in a bubble and never get out of that bubble, but to really expand ourselves as people, see other different cultures and ways of living, different foods. And I always say, you don't know it might be your next favorite food. If you've never tried it, you just don't know, right? It can be that. And one of the things I love is meeting people. It seems it's so different. Like here in the States, if you're at a restaurant and you're sitting really close to another table, it's very rare that you're going to lean over and start chatting with the people at that table. But when you're traveling in all these other cultures, it's very common to just start chatting with the people sitting at the table next to you and you meet friends. But what I love is
they speak your language.
Yeah, that's the key. Yeah, that's the key. But what I love about that is when you meet locals, you alluded to this earlier, that they can show you really the nooks and crannies and the best places off the beaten track, best places to go. What's been one of your favorite places that you've been to that maybe you wouldn't have discovered otherwise?
In Dubrovnik, even, we stayed with a gal there, and she said, okay, I have some chipped glass here, and I need to dispose of this glass. Want to come with me? Like, okay. And we go down on the other side of Dubrovnik, and there's this old ruin hotel, this luxury hotel that was built right into the cliffside. That is, goodness, I want to say it's like 20 stories. This thing was massive and built right into the cliffside. And back in the War of Independence in the 90s, this thing was completely bombed out. It was like 5 or 10 years old. It was not that old of a building when it was completely destroyed. And it has been just in ruin this entire time. And she crawled through the slats that were blocking off the doorway or whatever. And we went inside this old hotel ruin, and we walked up many floors to this old restaurant. And she had her glass, whatever. That's and like, okay, this is my spot. Pick a glass and say, this is for blank that I'm angry about. And smash up against the wall. And this is for this that I wish our world wasn't like this. And smash.
Oh my God, how fun.
And so it was this wonderful experience. And we kind of had that ruin on our radar to check it out, because personally I love photographing ruins. Yeah. It's really interesting. But we never would have gone inside without her, because seeing it boarded up and like, maybe we shouldn't go inside. But since she goes in constantly, she's like, here's the safe route, and watch out for the stairs have no railings, the elevators are all whatever. And
she got a different kind of experience. I heard Father was leading you in that. So what would it's like your number one tip out of all the good strategies that you do to help people afford more travel? What's your number one tip to get people started? Because it can feel very overwhelming when you're planning travel, or if you don't travel on a consistent basis, you don't know what to look for, where to go. What's the number one thing you want people to know? I know it's a lot. There's a lot out there, because and one thing can lead to another and another, but or maybe two. What are the top tips?
I think another big tip for saving money is there's this website out there called Rome to Rio, and it helps you get from point A to point B to anywhere. And that was extremely useful in a place like Europe, because a lot of times we'd take maybe a bus or some other method to get from country to country. And it would show you all your different options. That way you can you can even book through it. It doesn't cost any more, but it's just a good way to help get around. I live and die by Google Maps. So that really is helpful to just like when you get to a new place to see, like type in activities, and it'll show a lot of different things you can go look at and see around the city, or if there are different like art installations or anything else that's interesting, you can usually find it and even just drop your little guy down on the map and walk down different streets if you want to. And I just play around a lot with
I love that.
That's really helpful, and just like getting an idea of what the area looks like before you get there.
And Google Translation, we found when we went to Japan, Google Translation was a lifesaver.
For us,
it's like you can
for sure
picture of the menu, and it translates the menu and type something in and translate it. Yes. So
I use that for grocery shopping. So I'm in Germany and looking at the packaging. I'm like, what's in this? So I put the phone over it and I scan over, and I can translate it to English. And
it's a weird thing sometimes.
Sometimes it's weird. Sometimes it's not quite accurate, but it gives you the gist of what you're buying. So that was helpful, especially just trying to read signs on the streets and anything else would be easy to do.
So I think one of you asked for like the number one tip. I think the thing that I would say honestly is kind of meta, and that would be research all of the different kinds of ways that you can save money, just so that you can pick and choose, and you have this whole arsenal of things of, hey, I'm going to Europe, I'm going to employ this tactic, and this tactic, which won't necessarily work in Southeast Asia. But conversely, I have these other things that I can employ there. And so just being aware and savvy of all of the different types of ways that you can save money, because like I said, there isn't any single silver bullet. And just being aware of all of those different ways, then you're able to like whip it out like your arsenal, like a line of knives or whatever else. You can pull out the perfect weapon for whatever situation you need to slice those prices and
I love it.
spend less while you're traveling.
Yes, we love it. Thank you so much, Brianna and Aaron, for sharing all your insight and tips with us. Make sure that they're going to give us their contact information so we can make sure to put it in the show notes so you can reach out with any questions on how you can afford more travel. And they'll also share some more resources that you can find in the show notes as well. So I love all the tips that they have. Don't feel overwhelmed whenever you go to travel, and just do one thing to help you afford more. And if you have one place to start, I think Aaron mentioned it at the very beginning. And I think the first place you got to start is shifting that mind around your idea of travel. And then once you start doing that and getting on board with the idea that you can afford it, then you can implement some of their tips and tools to be able to afford more travel in your life. And we can't wait to hear where you travel to. We'll see you on the next one. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye. Are you ready to move to your next level of rockstar greatness? CFO, Chief Fun Officer, #1 best-selling author, and keynote speaker Blaze Rector is ready to help you do that. At just 10 years old, he's already written 2 #1 best-selling books. Through the power of storytelling, he uses lessons learned and shares strategies, tips, tactics, and tools to inspire, empower, and motivate you to live a more amazing life. So if you're ready to do that in your own life, grab a copy of his #1 best-selling books at jessicarector.com/store. And when you order your copies, he will personally autograph them and write you a message on those books before shipping them out to you to really inspire and empower you in your life. These books are great for adults and kids alike. So if you're ready to move to your next level of rockstar greatness, make sure you grab your copy at jessicarector.com/store. Enjoy those amazing, empowering, transformational books. Did you know that the 2 biggest issues impacting the workforce are mental health and burnout? Well, we have your solution. The more that you feel burned out, the more it impacts your mental health. The more your mental health is impacted, the more it leads to burnout. So it's a vicious cycle that goes around and around, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can help them both if you're intentional and strategic with it. We have lots of resources for you at jessicarector.com/store. One that I want to highlight that really enhances your mental health is Tame Your Brain Game, 52 tips to turn negative thoughts into positive action. Now, research shows that 80% of your thoughts are negative. No matter how positive you feel, it's the pattern and the habit that you've developed over the course of years, over the course of decades. And that can often impact your life, how you show up, how you lead, how you communicate, how you engage, whether at work or at home. And then it also impacts a work environment. All you need is one NN or TT, negative Nancy or toxic Tim, to really impact that work environment. So if you are ready to enhance your mental health, get your copy of Tame Your Brain Game, 52 tips to turn negative thoughts into positive action today at jessicarector.com/store. All books are autographed with a personal message just for you. Thank you so much for being here. Check us out at thesayyesexperience.com. Our mission at the Say Yes Experience is to empower 10 million people to say yes. With your help in sharing our podcast, we can do that. Follow us on all social media at the Say Yes Experience and join our free community at facebook.com/groups/the Say Yes Experience. Thank you again to our guest. You can find all the contact information for our guest in the show notes. Thank you to our CFO, Chief Fun Officer, Blaze Rector, our business advisor, Lisa Verhurick, and to our team at Jessica Rector Enterprises. We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Have an amazing day and keep being a rock star.